Let's try that again. Test 1, 2. So it's coming out of the speaker. Can we? Yeah. So test 1, 2. Yeah.
Okay, try again.
Is that better? All right. Test. Yeah, that works. Yeah. Yeah, no, it's coming. It was coming out of the laptop. Yeah, no worries. I wasn't sure where it was coming from. All right. Good evening, everyone. I see 75 individuals remote. Welcome, hello from whatever time zone you're calling into. This is the Ietf 120 plenary session. My name is Roman Daniliu. I am the Ietf chair and also your evening facilitator tonight. I'm pretty happy to hear, pretty happy to kind of see here across the room. I mean, everyone, it looks like, made it to some degree. I don't know whether everyone liked the remedial homework they probably got at the airport on Friday and Saturday, as they were probably assigned. I'm sure that's what you were doing, is you were waiting around for your flight to come, reading a lot of internet drafts, and I'm hoping that resulted in lots of great productivity in the working group kind of sessions. But kind of in all seriousness, thanks for everyone for making the extra effort to come here. I know the logistics were a little complicated for individuals kind of coming in here, and coming here kind of on site really makes kind of the difference. So very much kind of appreciate that. So the first up here is the note well. Just like every other meeting we have here kind of at the Ietf, we have a series of kind of meeting policies and kind of procedures. If you have any questions about that, please don't hesitate to ask, but they do apply to this meeting. We have 106 folks and growing online. Just as a reminder to all of you, please only unmute your mic to be recognized in the queue. If you are in the queue speaking, don't hesitate to turn on your video. Experience from prior meetings this week and in general kind of with MeetEcho, headsets are going to be your kind of friends here. So if you have that, that's going to make for a better experience for us and you in all likelihood. We have largely a standing agenda that we're going to execute kind of here tonight. We're going to go through the host presentation. We're going to have the various leadership bodies give you reports. We're going to have the NomCom talk to you. We'll have the trust. We'll have the RFC editor. We'll have the administrative LC report, and then we'll bring back the various leadership bodies for open mics to field your comments and feedback. But before we kind of get any further, I wanted to kind of stop and kind of pause and remind everyone the magic that happens this week, the success of this meeting, and what lets us talk about all these various technical topics is due to the facilitation of those different organizations and the teams that you see here. The magic happens because of the Secretariat, MeetEcho, the NOC, the LLC, the tools team, and the hackathon kind of support that really started for us on Saturday. So I want to give them a round of applause and a big kudos for making the magic happen for us. Okay, so next up, it's my pleasure to introduce Juya Wu, who's going to be giving us a recorded presentation as the host of this meeting from Huawei. He's the president of Huawei Data Communications product line and R&D. So let's tee up the video.
Dear colleagues and fellow participants, good day. On behalf of Huawei, it's my great honor to welcome to all to the Ietf 100 meeting. I would like to extend a warm welcome to all attendees and express sincere gratitude to the Ietf community for your hard work and outstanding contributions. Over the years, significant advancements have been made in 5G, cloud computing, and artificial intelligence. These technologies have not only transformed industrial, but also enhanced the everyday lives of people globally. In 1994, a few Chinese scholars initiated connecting an academic internet to the global internet. Since then, with 30 years of increased internet availability in China, Chinese internet infrastructure has been a key part of the global internet. This innovation spans from fixed to mobile internet, from consumer to industrial applications, and from IPv4 to IPv6. Notably, IPv6 now constitutes over 64% of mobile internet traffic in China. It can be said that the Ietf has played a crucial role in development of internet in China. Huawei firmly believes that open standards are fundamental to the ongoing innovation and development of the internet. The Ietf, as a leading global standards organization, is pivotal in promoting interoperability and advancing cutting-edge technologies. Huawei remains committed to supporting the Ietf's work and actively participating in the development and the promotion of standards. Huawei believes that applications have driven practical innovation to better enable the 5G era and digital transformation. The Ietf has achieved significant milestones in developing protocols such as SIV6 performance measurements and networking slicing. This protocol ensures seamless integration, high efficiency, and reliability, enhancing not only the experience of industrial users, but also providing robust technical support for smart manufacturing, smart cities, and other vertical industries. Today, innovations in AI are creating a world of intelligent connections and interactions, presenting both opportunities and challenges. Huawei is innovating and contributing in two perspectives of innovation. Network for AI requires more reliable and differentiated experience for wide internet connection with high speed, low latency, and wide coverage for campus networks, higher throughput output, and zero blocking for data center networks, and SASE-based network security. These advancements create end-to-end computing networks and support both training and inference, efficiently transmitting computing power and accelerating AI adoption. AI for network innovations using AI to intelligently improve the network experience and the digital twin capabilities. For example, intent-driven autonomous networks powered by network operation and measurement models and digital maps can help customers improve efficiently addressing these challenges head-on. We can create networks that are more efficient, resilient, and adapting, integrating AI with existing technologies will drive future innovations, fundamentally transforming global connectivity and interaction. In tomorrow's Huawei Speaker series during lunch, Huawei will present the challenges faced in building an effective and efficient data center network for AI large language model training. And we hope the Ietf community will work together to address those challenges. We are looking forward to see you here. Technological process relies on cooperation and partnerships. Huawei understands that only through close cooperation with industry partners, academic institutions, and standards bodies can we connectivity overcome technical challenges and drive the development of internet technologies. We welcome and encourage more cooperation and look forward to working with all towards innovation. Huawei has actively encouraged more Chinese industry partners to join the Ietf and improve our diversification by involving more young and women in contribution to Ietf. Today, 38% of Huawei's Ietf participants are women, and the average age is 32 years. In conclusion, I want to thank the IETF community for trusting and supporting us and allowing us to host this important meeting. China has been rapid digital transformation across various industries in recent years. SIV6 and digital maps are widely used not only by operators, but also across industries. We welcome you to visit China to see these developments. We also hope IETF will hold more meetings in China. Thank you to all attendees for your presence and active participation. We look forward to achieving more results through future cooperations. Thank you all.
I'm heartened by the kind words of encouragement about the importance of standardization by Juya. We are profoundly grateful for Huawei's support that makes this meeting happen, has made other meetings happen. So as a token of our appreciation, I have a plaque, and I'd ask Andy Xiong to come up. I'd like to kind of pass it along as kind of a token of our appreciation to Huawei. Come on up, Andy. Really appreciate it. Thank you. We'll mail it to you. Thank you. We'll mail it? Yeah, okay. We'll mail it to you so you don't have to fly home. Thank you. I think the expression is carry on or lost, right? So moving on to the ISG and the IETF chairs report. I've prepared a few slides that are the usual ones you've seen, and then talking a little bit about current events, and wanted to bring up some common topics that we previously heard as the ISG coming up to the mic line. So here are the stats that we often prepare in preparation for kind of meetings. The top line things I wanted to go over. The participation count, the distribution by country looks roughly what we've saw at our last North American meeting at IETF 117 in San Francisco. We'll talk a little bit about the proportion of on-site and remote, but again, that looks like the profile we last time saw in North America. I wanted to call out two particular things. We handed out the most on-site fee waivers. I'm sorry, we had the most on-site fee waiver requests than we've had since I believe we started handing them out post-COVID. The IETF chair gets 10. We got 25 requests. The prior high water mark was 17 or 18. The average is around kind of 17. So there were quite a few requests, and we handed out all the ones that we were able to do. We also had tremendous participation in the hackathon, and I just wanted to highlight we also had a lot of remote participation in addition to the on-site participation at the hackathon. Talking about distribution between on-site and remote, again, these are within the bounds that we saw at IETF 117 in San Francisco, both on kind of raw count and across countries. And then the last kind of demographic count is a comparison to the longer retrospective back to kind of 114, showing you the fraction of on-site remote. And we're largely seeing the continued kind of trend that remote will be somewhere at the low end on the high 30 kind of percentages, surging up to maybe half the participants. And we're within that bounds here again at this meeting. And kind of top line number, we're not close to the high water mark that we of course had in Prague, but it is a well-attended kind of meeting in comparison to some of those historical baselines you saw since we returned back to COVID. That's a little bit about the participants of today, but to really talk about the participants of the future, I wanted to highlight the IETF childcare program that we have. And this is something that's been running since IETF 14 or 15 to allow parents and guardians that have children that need to be kind of in care and need to be watched, to allow their, again, parents and guardians to fully participate in the meetings. And this is a service where you can drop them off and you realize they're kind of in good hands. And we had about 16 children participate, and the feedback we consistently get here is that the kids like being there, and it's very, very helpful to the parent or guardian to be able to attend the meetings while they're there. And talking kind of with Jay kind of this morning, there is a long-term kind of plan to continue to sustain this kind of in the future. All feedback, of course, is welcome based on how that potentially went for your child. Okay, To roll up some of the stats about what the ISG has been working on, we made 3 different kind of announcements. I'm going to talk a little bit more about them, 2 around posting rights action, 1 around a community survey. We had 0 appeals since we last saw you in 119 in person. And then here are a bunch of pointers where you can get additional reports on some details about what the ISG is doing. Now, moving into current events, we need your help. So the ISG needs your feedback on how to plan Ietf 125. If you have attended a meeting since Ietf 114, you got a survey from the email address of qemailserver.com with the title Qualtrics Survey, IETF Survey on Ietf 125 venue, with an individualized link to provide us feedback on that meeting. If you have not filled out that survey, while you have a laptop here and you're hearing me talk about facts and kind of figures and kind of stats, please pop open your laptop, search your email, and please respond to this survey. To reiterate the importance of this, the IETF LLC is in charge of doing venue selection. They have identified several candidate venues in China for IETF 125, which is March 2025. Community feedback arrived based on that process of doing venue selection and identification, and they asked the ISG to confirm that the meeting venue would meet the requirements of why we meet as the IETF, and the ISG decided we can only do that through community feedback. So that is why we launched the survey. We purposely launched it in early July, and we're purposely ending on Saturday so we can drum up as much feedback as we possibly can. So I'm quite kind of serious. If you have not filled out that survey, please flip open a device, find it in your mailbox, and kind of give us word, because the survey will close on Saturday, and the ISG is going to deliberate and deliver a message of which way we're going with that meeting to the LLC, ideally by early September. The other area of kind of current events, if you've been on some major IETF mailing lists, some of the plenary lists, you have probably noticed in the last 7 or 8 weeks that there is a lot of interest and a lot of discussion around what the future of moderation, what moderation looks like in the IETF, and what the moderation should be in the IETF. We have observed several drafts coming from the community, which is fabulous, on perhaps how we could do it better. In our assessment as the ISG, this is a complicated and nuanced topic, and to get a durable solution for the community, which we feel we need, the answer is a working group. One of those drafts went to dispatch on Monday, and it appeared that the community confirmed that a working group is the best way forward. So I would invite the community, please go on to Mod Discuss at IETF, sign up for that mailing list. And if this is a topic that you are passionate about, you're interested about, or have feedback on, please provide that to the mailing list. And that's the place where you can track next steps on that activity. Switching gears a little bit, prior to being chair, I was on the ISG for a couple of years. And observing common questions that came up to the mic line, I wanted to prepare a few kind of slides into comments that often kind of come up in the mic line and give you a sense of where the ISG is making some progress in response to your community feedback. One of those items of feedback that we've heard in kind of recent years is that the community desires more diversity and more fresh input into the leadership pool. That's observed across those that you see on the ISG, and realizing that in almost all cases, the stepping stone to be an AD is through the path of being a working group chair. And there's a desire for the community to see new folks being appointed as working group kind of chairs. The ISG has historically kind of said 2 things. First, if you would like to change the composition of the ISG, now is a great time for that. Dean is going to be up in a couple kind of speakers to tell you about what the NomCom is doing. Please nominate people when that call comes. That is how you will get an ISG that you feel that should be there. Well, the other thing the ISG often says is that we are working on actively rotating the workforce and the cadre that is the working group chairs. And the most common thing that we have implemented is we call it the 1+1. So very often if there's a new working group being spun up, or perhaps it's a rechartering and the working group team is being reconsidered, there would be an appointment of an experienced IETF chair and then bringing in someone that has not prior had chairing kind of experience. And that allows kind of a mentoring kind of team that the person without IETF chairing sharing experience can work with someone that is experienced, but we're injecting those kind of new individuals into that working group cadre. I mean, we've said the words, and so I just wanted to report out on kind of what that looks like in terms of recent IESG actions. I don't have full kind of historical data, but if you look at what we did in terms of appointments for the last year, so from June to June of last year, 37 working group chair appointments were made, and about 60% of those working group chair appointments were new people that had no chairing experience at the Ietf. And if you're wondering if we implemented the 1+1, why isn't it lower? Why isn't it closer to kind of 50%? Because your ADs were also appointing, as they were rotating out, perhaps 2 experienced chairs, they were likely rotating in someone that did not have prior experience, and that's why we're pushing 60%. And the ISG believes that's really the path they're going to continue on in the future. The other set of feedback we've gotten around working group chair appointments is that chairs are in that job too long. So I wanted to share with the community pretty much a distribution on how long working group chairs, the appointments have been in their particular kind of job. So you can see the x-axis there is years of appointment. And the top line I'd like to kind of say is that about half of the cadre right now, and that half of that cadre has only been there 4 years or less. There are certainly, they've been there kind of much longer, but about half the workforce is only been there 4 years. Okay. Another common question, less at the plenary, but offline, is we've had a lot of change in how the IETF is structured. We eliminated the TSV area as a top-line area. We created the WIT area. We reorganized a lot of different working groups, and the composition of the IETF at the area level looks a little different. So I wanted to share with the community, what does that look like by different measures we have previously used to size kind of areas. So what you see there is how big particular areas are measured by how many ADs they have assigned, how many working groups they have, how many adopted documents they have, and their current page count. Fully recognizing that this is a snapshot in time, and if you cook those numbers kind of tomorrow, there might be a little bit of difference. But that's the snap done from the week before last. Thank you for Robert for pulling some of that data. So you can get a sense that routing is 1/3 of the IETF measured by kind of documents and kind of page count. And that all is a little bit of why there are 3 ADs, and you can kind of take a look at the different facts and figures. The other reason I'm kind of sharing that is if you are interested in kind of standing to be an AD in one of these particular areas, this is just a reminder is that all the areas are a little bit different. Your best source of information, if you are interested in being an AD in an area, is talk to the current ADs, talk to former kind of ADs. They're going to give you a sense because all the areas are kind of slightly different, and you give you a sense of kind of workload and what all of that means. And then the last series of charts I wanted to bring up, one of which I shared earlier in the, in the chair report coming into the meeting, is we often hear a little bit of feedback around what does document processing look like. So the thing I wanted to share is the ISG has kind of heard you. We think the answer is additional transparency in the pipeline, and we have been working with the tools team to identify what additional dashboards would look like to give you a sense of where things are, how long kind of things are taking. We have those features requests in. The tools team is working on them. We expect them to drop in the data tracker towards the fall and towards the end of this year. Since, to my knowledge, we haven't shared this with the community, this hasn't been popped up, I wanted to put up a couple of figures to just give you a sense of the in and out of the ISG with a time bin of just going from meeting to meeting, which is a bit of a cadence that a lot of working groups work on. Roughly 40 to 70 documents are sent to an ISG between an ISG meeting. So one would anticipate between now and Dublin, about 45 to 70 documents would be sent from all the working groups into the ISG for processing. We would roughly expect, based on that historical data, that a slightly lower number than that would be popping out from the ISG, perhaps previously sent than just the last meeting, and we would be sending them to the RFC editor. I've gotten some immediate questions about that chart, and I will fully admit it's a little kind of crude. And kind of the first question is, but the orange bar and the blue bar, shouldn't they be equal? And if they're disproportional, is that saying someone is falling behind? The answer is, there's a lot of kind of additional detail that's really needed to unpack that. What we can definitively say with the data polls we have is blue is definitely the concrete number of documents in that time bin that the working groups have sent. As to why the orange bar looks the way it looks, that is one part the ISG, no question. After a document leaves the working group, it is on ADs to do all sorts of processing. But remember that the time and the different folks participating in the process from after the working group all the way to when the document is sent to the RFC editor, there are multiple cycles in that loop. So as a result of AD review, there may be revised documents that need to happen. And so the working group and the draft offers are participating in that. Ditto with feedback that comes from last call, directorate reviews, and ISG reviews. And a little more fidelity into all those different states is exactly some of the new dashboards that the tools team has that we hope to deliver to the community at the end of the year. The other figure I have is much more kind of narrow. We've gotten feedback in the past around the wait time around publication requested, colloquially called here kind of PubRec. So these are the documents that have been sent to an AD, but they have not been serviced at all. So the AD has not yet gotten to read them. So I wanted to kind of share the distribution of snapshot in time, not a historical kind of sense, just like what the queue looked like 2 days ago. There were 32 documents sent by working groups, and you can see the distribution there. Kind of top line, the numbers are 85% of what's in the PubRec queue as of kind of 3 days ago is new from the last Ietf meeting. A third of those documents have been sitting there less than a month. Another third have been sitting 1 month to 2 months, and then there is a long tail. The IAG, of course, appreciates that the things at the long end of the tail need servicing, and we're going to be looking at things like load balancing to reduce the size of that tail or how many things are in that longer tail. Okay, so before I hand things over to Tommy, we often in these meetings do a lot of kind of thank yous to the folks that make the meeting possible. We also thank the financial sponsors that make these meetings possible. But what I wanted to really kind of call out is one last set of thank yous. Your area directors are all largely employed, and their employers are giving their time to us here kind of in the community. So I just wanted to acknowledge that all your area directors are funded by one of these kind of entities, and all the time they spend on your documents, helping you charter working groups and move things along in the IETF is made possible by paying the salaries of your ADs. And so I just wanted to say thank you and kind of acknowledge that here. And then I turn over the floor to Tommy.
All right, good evening, everyone. So I'm Tommy Pauly, and I am the chair of the IAB, the Internet Architecture Board, and I'll just briefly take you through some of the highlights of things you should be aware of that are going on in the IAB, some things this week, and some things coming up over the next months that you may want to follow. All right, so overall, if you want to learn more about what the IAB has been doing since IETF 119, there is a report that we sent out. It's also linked to from the slides, so please do check that out. Some of the highlights coming up that I want to bring to your attention, we have a couple different workshops that are going to be happening in the next 6 months, and if these are interesting to you, please do get involved. So one is there's going to be a workshop called AI Control. This is going to be held in September. This is about how we should approach cases where content should be opted out of being scraped by AI, and we want to have a discussion between all the different stakeholders in that conversation. So the submissions for that are open now. So if this is something interesting to you, please do contribute to that. There's also another workshop that is coming up that will be near the end of the year, and papers are not open for that yet, but we are trying to give you a preview of that today. And this is going to be a kind of a look back at how network management has developed and evolved since a previous IAB workshop that was held quite a while ago to see what has happened and what is left to be done in this area. So both of these workshops, if you want to learn more about them, please do come to the IAB open meeting that's going to be tomorrow. We're going to have some in-depth sessions looking at those, and you can ask questions about them there. Another big thing, one of the responsibilities of the IAB is to do a lot of very important appointments, and one of those positions is the IRTF chair. And we've been very lucky to have Colin Perkins doing a great job of leading the IRTF. But his term is coming up, and we do need nominees for the next IRTF chair. This is for the term that is starting next March. But since this is a large role and we want a good amount of ramp up towards that, this is something where we want to get those nominations in and do the selection well ahead of March. So if you're interested in that, or if you can think of people who would be perfect for that job, please send us email and nominate them. Just covering some of the other appointments, activities that the IAB has been doing. So Tim Wyszynski has been reappointed to the CCG. Pete Resnick has been reappointed as one of the chairs, the one appointed by the IAB for the RFC series working group. And we have 2 open appointments right now. One is for the ICANN Root Zone Evolution Review Committee, or RZERC. This is a position where we have our list of candidates, and the feedback period is closing today. So if you have strong opinions about who we should select for that position, write us an email right now. Please do that. The other position is a very large and important one, which is the IETF liaison to the ICANN board of directors. And nominations have been open for a while on that, and the nomination period is going to be closing this Friday. So if this is something, again, that you would be interested in doing, or you know someone who's going to be perfect for that role, please do nominate them and get that information to us by Friday. All right, lastly, I'm just going to highlight some of the activities at this meeting that the IAB is doing. So on Monday previously, and then also tomorrow afternoon, we are doing an experiment of having a new work help desk. So this is just out by registration. There are some IAB members who are going to be staffing that desk during the afternoons. If there's any questions you have about what the process is, we can help direct people to the right process for getting stuff into a BOF, et cetera. We also have liaison coordinator office hours. These we have usually every meeting, and these will be held tomorrow on Thursday during the lunch hour. So if you have any questions about liaisons in general or a specific liaison relationship, please do drop by, and the IAB members who are responsible for making sure that our liaisons continue to go well will be there, and we'll be happy to talk to you. As I mentioned earlier, we do have the IAB open session that's going to be tomorrow afternoon. This is a venue where we're going to highlight some of the things that we've been working on, highlight some of the workshops coming up, and we also have a great invited talk on community networks. And so if you're interested in hearing that, please come along. We also do run technical programs within the IAB. We have a meeting of the EDM program, which looks at, this time we're talking about protocol greasing and evolvability. That's going to be meeting Friday morning. So if you're up bright and early and you're not tired at all Friday morning, come along. E-Impact, our other program, is going to be having a virtual interim coming up sometime after this meeting. And the last thing I wanted to highlight is not directly a IAB activity, but I wanted to make sure people were aware. On Friday morning, in the first session slot, there's going to be a meeting, IS Open, for a discussion about and with the independent submissions editor, so you can learn more about that and also provide community feedback. One of the reasons I'm highlighting this now from the IAB perspective is that another appointment role that the IAB has is to appoint the ISE. And we would like to see a good amount of feedback from the community about what the community wants to see for the relationship between the IETF and the independent stream going forward. And I believe that's it from the IAB. So now I'll hand it over to Colin.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Tommy. My name is Colin Perkins. I'm the IRTF chair for another couple of meetings. if anyone, on that subject, if anyone is interested in the role, when I step down, please do come talk to me. I very happily talk to anyone about what's involved and what sort of qualifications and what the expectations around the role are. And I'm going backwards that way. So one of the things we do in addition to running the various research groups in the IETF is we run the Applied Networking Research Workshop. This is an academic workshop we organize in conjunction with ACM SIGCOMM. You'll have seen a number of people with the ANRW flares on their badges. We got a very good audience. We got a fantastic program of talks yesterday for the workshop. We had 12 fantastic full papers, 6 lightning papers, a brilliant keynote talk. If you were not there, please do watch the recordings. It was a fantastic workshop. Thank you to Ignacio Castro, I see over there, to Jaysri, who will be here somewhere, but I don't see her, and to Simone, who unfortunately couldn't make it this week, who are the organizers of the workshop. They did an excellent job, so thank you very much for your efforts. Thank you also to all the paper reviewers for the workshop. And look out for the workshop again in 2025. In addition to the workshop, we also run the Applied Networking Research Prize in conjunction with the Internet Society and with sponsorship from Comcast and NBC Universal. The prize recognizes some of the best recent results in applied networking. It recognizes interesting new ideas which are from the research community, which are potentially of relevance to the standards world. And it recognizes upcoming people that are likely to have an impact on internet standards and technologies. I'm very pleased that we made 3 awards on Monday this week to Zhejiang for his work on improving test coverage, to Yevhenia for her work on understanding the root causes of DNS failures, and to Jasleen for her work on key transparency for encrypted messaging. Again, 3 very well-deserved awards, 3 fantastic talks in the IETF open meeting on Monday this week. All 3 of them are still here, so please do chat with them if you see them in the hallways. And again, I encourage you to read the papers and to watch the recordings of the talks. There were some excellent talks and some excellent papers there. We also run a diversity travel grant program. We're very grateful to the sponsors you see on the slide for supporting this. We managed to bring, I think, 7 people to the meeting this time. We have some breakdowns of the gender balance of the attendees and the geographic location where they came from on the slide there. I think this is a fantastic program. We've managed to bring a couple of people back several times to start making connections. As I say, I'm very grateful to the sponsors. If you happen to have a budget going spare and want to increase the size of this travel grant pot, please come talk to me or talk to Stephanie. And the other thing I wanted to highlight, if you've been to the IETF open meetings in the past year or so, you'll have seen this mentioned. But the other thing I wanted to highlight is that we have been developing in the IRSG a code of conduct for the IETF. The IETF has had a code of conduct, RFC 7154, for a number of years, which is focused on effective conduct of the standards process. Up until now, there hasn't been an IRTF code of conduct. We have the anti-harassment policy, we have the documents about the ombuds team, we have the inclusive language guidelines, and all of those processes, which are shared and in common with the Ietf, but we haven't had a specific IRTF code of conduct. I think one is needed to focus on the effective conduct of research in the IRTF, and this is something we've been developing in the IRSG for the last year or so. The draft Perkins IRTF Code of Conduct, currently version 03. You see it on the slide with the table of contents there. The IRSG believes this is now essentially finished. We are planning on issuing a last call for this document in the next few weeks. So if you are interested in this, please do read it. Please send feedback either directly to the IRSG or to the IETF discuss list. And as I say, we are planning on finalizing this in the next few weeks, if possible. I think that's all I have. Thank you, and pass over to the NomCom. Oh, is there a question? Sorry, yes, please.
Yes, I just wanted to say that I think the awards you're doing are really good, and I think it's a particularly good way to get new people into the IETF who can become long-term contributors because they're clearly doing work that's relevant, you know, so they're up to speed in their area in a lot of ways. So I really like this program, and we should do more of it. And these are people we should try to get back, maybe using the travel grants as necessary, so they can become regular IETF participants.
Thank you.
Hello, Dejan Bogdanovic, and this year, NomCom chair. Many people congratulated me and also said sorry for the next 12 months. And I'm saying fine. It's a learning process, and I have to say my first NomCom experience was quite opening, and I learned quite a lot about how the IETF is functioning. The reason for all this introduction is to try to say to people that, hey, NomCom is not that scary, and more of you should be volunteering to join as NomCom members, because it would make the future NomCom chair's job also easier. And with a wider selection, we would get a more, hopefully more diverse voting member people, and they will be able to improve the process, because one of the NomCom goals is continuous improvement of the process that we are applying to select our leadership. So what is NomCom's goal? We received from the IETF leadership organizations what positions have to be filled, and what are the requirements that those nominees should bring to the table. Some years there are some very specific asks. Some years are more or less business as usual. And this year we have following open positions. So there's an IETF LLC board of director open position, one. The previous member is term limited and cannot apply for it. Take a look. We will be publishing the requirements soon, and feel free to apply. There are, if you look at the IETF Trust Board, you can find out who are the members, and you can see what experience was it for them. Then for the IETF Trust, it's one position. The IETF Trust is encouraging longer engagements for so that they can have the historic knowledge, but it's always good to bring in a fresh blood and the new points of view. So please, if you are interested in the governance of the IETF property, that would be a great area for you to take a look. Then we have the IAB 6 positions. They are 6 terms that are expiring. And some of our morning conversations inspired me to write an April 1st IAB RFC. And then on the ISG, we have 8 positions to be filled. The interesting part is where we have a new area for WIT, and we will have 2 positions to fill, one for 1 year and one for 2 years. The NomCom of this year, we have from Australia to Pacific Coast and everything in between as members. I was working on the schedule today when people will be able to join and make it least painful, but there will be some 5 a.m. calls for some, and there will be some midnight calls for some. So unfortunately, being a global organization makes scheduling very hard for the regular calls, because those calls will start after this meeting on a weekly basis. The timeline, we were seated at this meeting, and between now and the Dublin meeting, we have a cadence of one meeting a week where we will be preparing first call for nominations. We expect to receive descriptions for the open positions from all the bodies, and we want to have the slate of candidates finalized by mid of October. There can be, based on my previous experience, maybe a few days a slip here and there, because some of the positions are just being ironed out, but majority of information will be able to provide you by the August 5th. That will be the Monday. Also, we are running a very transparent process, and for us to be transparent, we need a community involvement. The more feedback we receive from the community on the candidates, we will be able to make a better selection, and also will be able to provide more information why certain candidates were selected for the position that they were being nominated for. The interviews will be will start virtually on October 21st, and because we understand not everyone can be in person, but most of the interviews will be done during the Ietf 121 in Dublin, and we are planning to start interviews on Sunday and run them until Thursday, so that NOMCOM has a whole Friday time to do the deliberations on the candidate. As every year, there will be some heated discussions about one candidate versus the other, with a lot of pros and cons, and those are best to be done in person. So for everyone who is planning to be a candidate, think about that. Your interview will be between Sunday and Thursday. And by December 6th, I hope to be able to send to the confirming bodies the nominees, and that the confirming bodies will take it over, and then at the 122 positions will be filled. You can get much more information about the NOMCOM in general at the data tracker page. And I hope that this year we will bring some improvements, because one of also the NOMCOM goals is continuous improvements, and that we are receiving some community feedback on which things we could improve. So I hope I will be able to share some of those experiences at the Dublin meeting next March. Thank you. Oh, yeah. Oh, there's a question? Oh, yes.
Just one comment about the terminology you used. You talked about having the candidate slate on October 11th, but the terms are switched around for non-com. So they're really nominees, and then the candidates are what you send into the slate to the confirming bodies. Just terminology. You can't, okay, this mic isn't on. Okay, so I don't know why he couldn't hear me then.
Oh, okay, sorry.
I'm just saying the terms are backwards.
Yeah.
And I
Okay,
first
yeah.
read when you said candidate slate, I thought, gosh, you're going to have it done early. But there, the wording in the process is the nominees are the people that people put into the pool. And then the candidates
Yeah,
are what
so
you
yeah.
send, because we don't vote, yeah.
I'll apologize in advance for all speakers. When you're at the mic line, there's bright lines. It's hard to see which mic individuals are out, and a little bit on the audio.
Hi, everybody. I'm Glenn Dean. I'm the chair of the Ietf Trust. Who doesn't want to hear about corporate restructuring? It's full of engineers, and I'm sure you guys all are all about corporate restructuring, because that's what we're going to talk about for the next 5 or 10 minutes. So you have, there's 5 trustees. 3 of them are appointed by NOMCOM. One of them's open position this year, so come on. And one is selected by ISOC. Victor, in fact, was just reappointed by ISOC for another term. We just found that out. And we have one appointed by the IESG, which was John. Yes, just John. So, and because Victor has been reappointed and ISOC schedule's a little bit skewed from the IETF's NOMCOM process, this is the time of the year that we also do our selection for the officers. And so I was reappointed as the chair and as the president of the new corporation. Kathleen has continued on as our treasurer of both the Trust Virginia entity and the new Delaware corporation. And Kristen has taken on the role of a secretary of the new corporation, because it's a new role we have. Since IETF 119, we've been trying to, every IETF, we're trying to give updates on what we've been doing. We have a very passive licensing structure here at the IETF, so it's designed so we don't have to be writing a bunch of new licenses, and it's working very well. We've actually issued 0 new RFC licenses since we met last time. We have had a couple of inquiries though, but can I use this? How do I do that? We had 2 of those come in, and we've resolved them by working with the requester in a way that they were quite happy when they went away, but we didn't need to write any new licenses to make that happen. And the really, really good news is we have also not sued anybody since we last met, and that's always a good statistic. By the way, so far my time on the trust, we've sued nobody, so this is a good trend. So one thing we did do as a result of some of the inquiries we got was we realized we need to clarify the use and the protections around the boilerplate in the materials. This is the stuff that says copyright, IETF trust, and all that other stuff. There was a question about whether that was copyright protected and whether we needed to issue a license to make use of it in things like tools. The answer is you do not need a license for that. That material is boilerplate, is not part of the copyrighted protected work in a document. And so we will be updating the Ietf Trust FAQ with specific language to explain it in English, but also make it so that it's been reviewed by the lawyers and we didn't do anything that we shouldn't have said. But that's coming, stay tuned. But the answer is no, you don't need it. So restructuring. For those who have been following this, we've been at this for a little while. We did a community consultation back in 2022. We did a consultation where we talked to you, and we talked to the very broad community, because we also serve IANA and ICANN, so we talked to a lot of people. And we said we want to restructure the IETF Trust from a trust that's in Virginia to a not-for-profit corporation in Delaware. And there's a bunch of reasons. If you want to read them, they're on our website. You can go watch the videos and hear all that again. But the good news is we did the consultation. The answer came back, yeah, that seems like a good idea. We then created the bylaws and we created the corporation. That was phase 2. And now we're at phase 3. The phase 3 part is we spun up the new guy. We got to move the assets from the old trust over to the new corporation and then do all the final cleanup. And if you've ever moved houses, you know that final cleanup is always the hardest. So that's what we're doing right now. So we've got the trademarks transferred. We've got directors appointed to the IPMC, which is our little short form for the IETF, Intellectual Property Management Corporation. And we've sent a request over to the CCG as part of our IANA agreement, requesting their permission to move over the IANA related material. So remaining tasks ahead. We are working on doing the copyrights. These are the copyrights around RFCs and contributions when you upload things to Data Tracker. So we're working on that. We spent a lot of time this trust meeting on Tuesday talking about, so we got a plan. Stay tuned, you'll hear more as it comes along, but I think we got it worked out how that's all gonna come together. We need to update some IETF documents. So for instance, RFC 5378, we're going to touch that to update it to have stuff about the new corporation and not the old trust. And then we're going to have a bunch of agreements that we got with third parties. These are contracts through the years that we need to transfer over from the old entity to the new entity. So the new entity is bound by them. And then finally, we get to the big moment where we shut down the current Delaware, or the current Virginia trust and make it go away. And so we've got a plan for that. We just got to get all that cleanup done and the last stuff out of the house, that final run, and then get it done. We had hoped to get all that done before this meeting. We did not make it. We are hoping very much to get it done by the year end, hopefully. Okay, that's corporate restructuring. House cleaning. We had 6 pallets of documents that we had gathered up through the years and had stored in Virginia. We have retrieved those, we've filtered them down. It turned out to be a largely proceedings. So one of the great things is we were actually able to get original proceedings for a huge number of IETFs on paper. And so those are getting donated and they're going to be available through the Computer History Museum, or getting the tapes. We're also going to set over the proceedings. We also got a bunch of blue sheets that were on paper. These were back in the day when we used paper. Those have now all been scanned, and we are working on getting them uploaded to Data Tracker with the other sheets that are already there. So that's taken care of. And then 25 boxes of proceedings, which were duplicates, CDs, and a bunch of old stuff. It's getting destroyed and shredded. So house cleaning is underway. So if you want to hear more about becoming an IETF trustee, or you want to talk to the trust about anything, we're going to have office hours. It will be on Thursday in Tennyson from 10 to 11:30. Come and see me. Come and see the other trustees. We would like to hear from you. And we'll, look, not everybody finds this stuff really exciting. We're sometimes lonely. Please come visit us. You're a bunch of engineers. We get it. You're not into the legal stuff, but we're one of you. So come visit us. And if you want to contact us, there's our website and there's our email address. Thank you.
Jay, you're up for the Ietf Administration LLC.
Good afternoon, everyone. I normally start with a little joke, but I don't need to today. That's excellent. My name's Jay Daly. I'm the Ietf Executive Director, and this is the part where we do a lot of applause for the people who support the Ietf so much. So first of all, can we give a big thank you, please, to Huawei, who are the host for Ietf 120. And a big thank you to our gold sponsors, Akamai, Huawei, and Ericsson. For those of you that don't know, we have 4 values-based sponsorships: diversity and inclusion, running code, sustainability, and open internet. On our bronze sponsorship, we have some more of those values covered. Under diversity and inclusion, we have Comcast, ICANN, NBC Universal, and VeriSign. And under running code, we have CNNIC, ICANN. And then under open internet, we have the ENIC. So thank you to all of those as well. And then we have a significant amount of support from industry for equipment, services, and connectivity sponsors. For this meeting, for example, the connectivity is sponsored by TELUS with a 10 gig link into us here. And we have a number of companies shown here who have been donating either products or other services to us for many years. So thank you to them as well. We still have plenty of sponsorship opportunities. You may have noticed I went from gold to bronze. There were no silver in there. So anybody who is working for a company that you think might be interested in sponsoring, please speak to me, and we would very much like to hear from you. So Because T-shirts are such an important thing to the Ietf, looking around, there are at least 15, 20 people wearing green T-shirts so far. We have a store where you can order a number of the Ietf T-shirt and a 120 T-shirt and a number of other back T-shirts. It has worldwide delivery and anything in any sizes. We regularly get suggestions that we might want to have more branded products in there. The Internet Police badge, that kind of things, and we'll add those in a period of time. So at the Ietf meeting, we have a significant number of volunteers, and well, everybody, of course, is a volunteer, but we have a number of volunteers who help with many of the things behind the scenes. So the Code Sprint, which is where a large number of volunteers work on data tracker, takes place on the Saturday. And then we have the knock running throughout the week where the volunteers operate the network that you're all using now instead of listening to me. So thank you very much to all those people and their employers for helping sponsor them. There is a reasonably large team of people behind this as well, as I'm sure you've seen. We have the Secretariat team, who have been doing this for many years and are very polished at it. We have the Meet Echo team, who work diligently, some of the longest hours of anybody here, and then the NOC team as well. So thank you to all of them for their support. This is the Ietf LLC current staffing. It does tend to change every now and again. We have a new developer on the bottom. Cue the normal comments about building empires. These are, again, another technical person working on data tracker and other tools. We are, as you may have noticed, quite geographically diverse, with quite a few of us based in New Zealand for some reason. Right. So these companies here are the ones that make a long-term commitment to the Ietf financially. They're the ones that generally give us a 6 or 9 year agreement. And the global hosts are the ones that, as part of that, host a meeting once every 3 years. And then the global supporters are those who just make it a straight donation to us to help support us in that way. So these are the ones that really, really help us financially. So thank you very much to all of these corporations. Ietf 121 is coming up. It will be held in Dublin on the 2nd to 8th of November and hosted by Cisco. We have more sponsorship opportunities available still for that, so please do get in touch. We will be opening registration for that relatively soon as well. And we are very much hoping that we will get good attendance, which we seem to do for European meetings at the moment. Looking forward, these are our booked meetings going forward. So we have Dublin coming up at the end of this year. Then in March of next year, we have Bangkok, and we are still very much interested in finding a meeting host for that. Then Ietf 123 in Madrid. We likely have a meeting host ready for that one. Ietf 124 in Montreal, which has recently been booked, will be hosted by Comcast and NBC Universal. And then we're as you know, we're discussing the Ietf 125 meeting for Asia of March 2026. Ietf 126 then in July of 2026 is in Vienna at the same venue we went to when we first opened up after COVID. Maybe a little bit tight, but it's a lovely venue, and it's very easy for us to rebook it. And then we have Ietf 127 in San Francisco. Now, for this meeting, we have, as I think some of you know, had a problem where a relatively largest cohort of participants have been unable to get the visas in time, despite having applied several months in advance. That is a significant concern to us, and we are going to ensure that we follow up after this meeting with further conversations with the Canadian government so that when we come to meet in Montreal, that doesn't happen for us. And we're going to look at other things that we can do to help people possibly apply for their visas early, or strengthen the support we give to participants who need visas to move here. As you know, there have been as many of you know, there have been similar problems in the past about other countries as well. For example, going to the US, there is no real easy solution for this. So we are doing what we can, but overall, if people have problems coming to some countries, generally our best way around that is to balance that out over a number of years by going to multiple different countries where people can get to and can do those things rather than necessarily being able to solve it for a specific country. So that's our list of future meeting locations and venues. And as I said, as you can see, there are 5 asterisks on there. There are 5 meeting sponsors we're still looking for. We understand there's a little bit of an economic downturn for some companies in our industry at the moment, but you should all realize the Ietf is the most important thing you can be involved in. And so we very much need your ongoing support. Thank you.
Great, thank you. I'm Jason Livingood, the board chair of the Ietf LLC, and I'll give our update. So first up, these are the board members. Nothing new here since our last meeting. Obviously Roman here at the front, Miriam, who's over on the side with a lovely mask, and Sean here. And Shauna is also at the meeting. I don't think she's in the plenary though. I think she had a conflict today, but we actually had everybody here, which was great. I should clarify that Sean and Shauna are not related in any way. And if they were, I would want to have a word with their parents for the dreadful naming that would have occurred there. So, but anyway, and you know, really look at the beard. It's nothing, the hair is in the wrong spot, you know, but so we've got some upcoming board meetings, the standing schedule. We typically have very light attendance from outside observers. So if there is any issue that you'd like to talk about, please feel free to join. And if you're not able to make the time, you know, just send us a message with, you know, what you're interested in speaking with, and we'll sort something out. This is an update on our fiscal year operating budget for 2024. So this is as of end of May. So, you know, lagging a little bit from where we are today. On the revenue side, you can see under the first bullet for notes, we have a slight variance on revenue. We're a little bit under because of a lack of sponsorship revenue that we had expected for the last meeting. And then the second bullet, you know, which is really the investments part on the bottom, you know, it's exceeded budget expectations. This is largely because of, you know, what the market's doing broadly. And as is our practice, we split out investments because we don't really control that to the extent that we control the top parts. And then the last bullet, I should really recognize Debbie Sasser, who is in the back here, if you can wave. She's our Director of Finance. Is this your first meeting that you've come to? Second meeting? Okay, so second meeting. She's done a fantastic job of working with our accountants and getting them really on track. And so that, you know, not only are the financial statements correct and timely, but our audits every year go flawlessly as they did this year, which was a relief, let me tell you, after having lots of discussion in prior years with auditors. So thank you very much, Debbie. Appreciate your hard work there. So 3 tracks really that we're working on at the moment. One is fundraising. This is the, you know, big item that we've been focused on the last couple of years. We've got a bunch of very promising leads at the moment that we're working on, and Jay's been on point with others on that, so that's important. Succession planning, we've been working on that as well. We sent a message about that, I don't know, I feel like 2-3 weeks ago, because both Sean and I are term limited. And we've both been on since the beginning of the board, so we thought it was kind of important to make sure we figured out a way to transition all of that working knowledge, if you will. And then the last point, which is new, which is another IASA 2 review. So when IASA 2 was completed, in those documents it said that after 3 years we would do a review and see if there were things that should be tweaked, adjusted, and so on. On the working theory that instead of waiting every 10 years to do a review and doing a big change, that we would like to have smaller, more iterative changes. So we did that already. That first one was completed. But at the end of that, we said this would be a great thing to continue and do every roughly 3 years. So that year is this year.
We'll soon be opening up a consultation about it and sort of provide our draft of what that looks like and ask for comment and ask for additional items with the objective to finish that by the November meeting in Dublin, and we'll present results then. And as always, we have a multitude of ways to contact us. And in particular, I'll note the sponsorship email address works really well. And what did you say? We're missing silver people. We're willing to also create diamond, double diamond, whatever we need to above that. So we're happy to, exercise that email address if you like. And that is it. Thank you very much. And we'll move on to Alexis. Thanks.
Hello, everybody. I'm Alexis Rossi. I am the RFC Series Consulting Editor. And I just had a few quick things that I wanted to update people on. This is the one and only slide, so it'll be quick. The first thing that I work on is trying to make sure RFCs live for a very long time. And as part of that preservation strategy, we have archiving agreements with the National Library of Sweden and the Computer History Museum. When I came on board almost 2 years ago, the National Library of Sweden was very unresponsive to emails, and it turned out that archiving was not happening. It took about 1.5 years, but we are finally getting archived again at the National Library of Sweden, which is amazing. And the Computer History Museum also fell into a communication black hole when the person that we were dealing with retired. So we've got that going again. So both of those are archiving RFCs again going forward. The other part for me of preservation is trying to make sure that the links in our references in the RFCs also stay alive, because that is part of the context of all of the things that you work on so hard. We do have a very low rate of link rot in the RFCs compared to the general internet, which is fantastic and is testament to all of you doing a very good job. But we do have dead links in the archive. And so going forward, we are doing it now, and going forward, I'm going to be archiving all of the links in your references and making sure that they get into the Wayback Machine. That gives us the option of healing those dead links in the future if we choose to do that. So a couple of other upcoming things that are happening. RFCeditor.org is the official home for published RFCs. We did a redesign with an outside company last year for the design portion, but the actual implementation will be happening in the second half of this year. So you will see things change there. Keep your eyes open for that. Another thing that I've been working on is trying to increase accessibility for RFCs. And the first thing that I wanted to try to tackle was helping people understand how to write an image description, which can be a little bit harder than you think it is. So we're going to put up some documentation coming up soon on authors.ietf that will give you some information about how to do adequate description for people with visual disabilities. And hopefully, once you all have a chance to read it, if there are questions or people are very interested in it, we can probably get some time with the expert that we've used to create that documentation, and people can ask questions if they want to. Finally, I wanted to remind people that a couple of years ago, when we redid the RFC editor function here, an editorial stream was created, and the first document for that should be coming out later this year. And I just wanted to encourage people, if you are interested in writing policy about how RFCs get published, you should join the RSWG, the RFC Series Working Group, and come give us your input on all of that. And that's it for me. Thanks.
Okay, so this brings us to open mic. So I would ask the ISG to come on up and sit at the table. And while they are shuffling up, I think there's probably some folks here that have not yet completed the survey for IETF 125. So please search your mailbox and complete that survey. That's not going to get old as we continue to shuffle here this evening.
We're sitting here. No, I'm standing. Okay. I was just taking a little out of the way.
And Francesca, yeah, hello. For all the remote ISG, if you could turn on your videos, that would be super. John, Jim. Okay, we're going to introduce each other alphabetically, and we'll start remote first. Alphabetically by first name remote. Francesca.
Francesca Palombini with AD.
Jim Guichard, Routing AD.
John Scudder, Routing Area Director.
Eric, can I get you to start at the end there?
Eric Klein, Int AD.
Tommy Pauly, IAB Chair.
Deb Cooley, Sec AD.
Gunther van der Velde, Routing.
Oh, there you go. Oh, there you go. Mahesh Jethanandani, Ops AD.
Ori Steele, RAD.
Warren Kamari, the real Ops AD.
Murray Kucherabi, Art AD.
Roman Danilo, Gen AD. No, it's hot. It's hot.
Erik Wijk, Int AD.
Paul Wouters, Security AD.
Jahid John Sharkar, Wait AD.
Okay, so that's your ISG. Let's get the queue started. Barry, you're first up.
This is Barry Leba. I want to talk about, I want to talk about Warren being an eggplant, but apart from that, I want to talk about the blue and orange lines, bars. Yeah, I mean, documents go through the area directors. The area directors are busy people. They don't always get to things immediately. Gets back to the authors. The authors have to make changes. The authors are very busy people. They don't always get to things quickly. The working group chairs maybe don't, and et cetera, et cetera. So this kind of goes with something I've been pushing for a long time, that there's this thing called a document shepherd who should be doing more than just writing up the shepherd write-up. And most of the time, we limit our shepherding to writing up the shepherd write-up and then go back to drinking beer and being an eggplant. So for years, I've been suggesting that the document shepherds should be more active and be bugging people and poking and saying, this document's been sitting around in this state for a while. It needs an update, it needs a review, it needs this, it needs that, and keep following it through, because you're one person with one document. You have a little bit more time than the rest of us eggplants. So that's all.
A good reminder that the document shepherds could be helping us more. Great. Thank you, Barry. Oh, sorry, I didn't see. Yes, Warren.
A, for the record, sunflower. And it's also got a bumblebee. And B, it's actually really helpful if sort of participants volunteer to be document shepherds. It's a really good way to get some experience sort of and learn what being chair is like. It also gets an extra set of eyes on the document. So please volunteer to document shepherd things.
Anyone else? Okay, Rich.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you very much for the slew of numbers you did in your introductory slides. I wondered if you considered the fact, if you think that there are working group chairs who have been in place for more than a decade, if that's a problem, and if so, do you have any plans to address that issue?
Yeah, we're in early stages in pulling kind of some of that data and kind of going through what the implications are. We've been kind of focusing on the front end. We are in preliminary conversations about what to do in the back end. And in the early conversations we've had and kind of looking at, it's really on a case-by-case basis. And so at this point, kind of the ADs are thinking through really on a per person kind of basis what makes sense in those positions. And that's the deep dive we're doing.
Thanks.
Any other kind of comments?
Sure.
Yeah, please.
And let me add to that it is easier for us to remove long-term chairs with new people if there's a bunch of new people that we can choose from. That unfortunately is not always the case.
Yeah, but you do have the chicken and egg problem. If we don't know who has been there for very long, it's hard to say, oh, I'd be willing to be a routing chair or an ops chair, for example.
For instance, speaking for myself, I'm always actively looking for security chairs, even if there's no current position opening. I would like to have a can of them available, and I don't.
Sure, but security wasn't the issue on the people who've been in the role for a decade.
Adrian. Oh, sorry, Warren. I'm going to keep scanning now.
How's it? Yeah. I mean, also, I mean, that's a good point. Something which we've also done in some areas and working groups is actually sent out like Google Forms or similar, being like, if you might be willing to chair, please put your name in here and select, you know, this working group, which working groups you might be interested in to try and sort of at least start getting the pipeline running. But yeah, good point.
I'm going to do back, forth. Okay. Adrian.
Hi, Adrian Farrell. I wanted to thank you for calling out the Ombuds team in your report. Something I view as really important, and I also wanted to thank you for boosting the number of people on that team recently, and then to thank that team for being willing to put themselves in potentially tricky positions and traumatic positions to help sustain the community. RFC 7776 is now 8 years old. One of the things it says is the Ombuds team is responsible for devising and documenting their operating practices. These practices must be discussed with the ISG and published in a publicly visible place, such as on the Ietf website. And it was understandable that in the first couple of years, the processes weren't written up because they were being developed, and it's a self-organizing team. But what I'd like to do is ask you to put a bit of pressure on them now to get those processes properly published.
Adrian, your point is well taken. Like you said, it's been 8 years. I've already spoken, I've begun my conversation with the Ombuds team, realizing they have a tremendous amount of kind of independence from me and the ISG. I'll let, if anyone from the Ombuds team wants to come up and kind of say something at the mic, we've already kind of talked about working on that. And I'll let Pete talk through that because we already had this chat.
Funny you should mention it, Adrian. So yes, we are very much aware of this, and we agree it is something we need to do. Part of, it was the spin up, but part of it is also 7776 is quite prescriptive on the things we need to do. So the number of things we have to document is likely to be short. That all said, we have a nice new crop of people, and we are doing onboarding training. We are, I believe, going to pull it off first or so week of September. Once we get everybody onboarded and trained up, we are using that moment to sit down, write up what we currently do, make changes to what we think now we really should do, and get those to the ISG and the public. So hopefully you should see those well before the next IETF meeting.
Lovely, thank you.
Thanks for that update, Pete. Wes. Is it someone's birthday? Is it someone's birthday?
Clearly, privacy is dead.
Yeah, clearly. All right. Happy birthday, Paul. Okay. Wes is done. Carolina.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can.
Yes, okay. So yeah, since Adrian brought the question of the Ombuds team, I want to take it up and say a few words. So I believe in your update, you had a point about the PR action. I just wanted to flag to the community that at the Sisters Group, we had a conversation during the networking breakfast on Monday about that incident. We were very happy to have a member of the, well, it was actually Pete, come to the meeting to speak about the work of the ombuds team to the group. And we also had sort of a bit of a discussion internally as well about the incident. I personally would like to say that, to me, it's a reminder that it's, very important to sort of continue doing the work that we're doing around diversity at Ietf and gender diversity in particular. And I say this, perhaps on a personal capacity. And we're also sort of discussing some ideas with the group in terms of, what we can sort of, contribute to the Ietf as a community to sort of take things forward. So be on the lookout for, future sort of initiatives coming from the group. So I just wanted to, flag that to the community really while I have the opportunity. Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks for your leadership and thanks for bringing that feedback to us in the community. Jen.
Jen Linkova. First of all, I apologize. I talked to some of area directors about this, and some of them told me it's impossible, but I was advised to say it at the plenary. As someone who sent a number of documents your way recently and going to send more, we are here for that, right? So I'm trying to make sure that all your comments are addressed before the telechat, which creates a problem because if I don't know when those comments stop coming, like half an hour before the telechat, hour before the telechat, sometimes it's easy for me to stay awake until the telechat, sometimes it's not, depending on the time zone. So would you consider maybe to set, I don't know, 24 hours deadline for reviewing the documents before the telechat, or make a fake telechat date 24 hours before? So we have 24 hours to address all your comments and everything will be perfect by the telechat time.
I'm not sure if I fully understood the proposal. So it's about setting a timer by which director reviews are.
Ideally, yes. So all comments and reviews, if it's possible, could be done 24 hours before the telechat. So authors have 24 hours to address them. Because if I'm getting a comment 2 hours before the telechat, I might be already asleep.
Got it. So the request is that right now, AD's ballot up to literally the minute that the telechat starts. And so instead of having the deadline, I'm not sure what the UTC time, I'll speak about my local time, 10 o'clock, 10 a.m. on Thursday, you're saying the AD should ballot 24 hours, so a day early to provide that. I think we can kind of take that feedback. I think we'd have to discuss how to adjudicate that and what to do with that. That would, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of implications. As I'll speak for myself as someone that kind of ballots. There's a lot of implications kind of on that.
So you need
I'll
to
look
say
left
what
and
you.
right. Well, I think Eric was
A
talking
quick
first,
one.
so I'll go Eric Zahed.
When you say we need to discuss this, was it uppercase or lowercase?
It was uppercase, all caps, right? That's the way it gets issued. Zahed. Are you guys sharing the cake down there?
Yeah. So I mean, I don't think there's an expectation like you need to address all the AD comments before the telechat. I think that's not the expectation from any of us or any of the IGs. So you have time. I understand that would be really good, but also like I think for me, sometimes my day job overwhelms my telechat reviewing time. So sometimes I actually do it. And as far as I understand, like during the meeting, we can, before the approval or like at a certain state of this document, we can actually comment. We can update comments and all these things. So I think that's the liberty or that's the like advantage for us when you're commenting, because sometimes we comment, other edits comment, and then I figured it, oh, I should have thought about that one. That's missing. So during the, I mean, I think that's the point of the telechat, having like discuss, the edits discuss and put some comments in it. So I don't think like it would be a good idea to set a time, but we can definitely discuss those things. Thank you.
Yeah, just to add to
And then
that.
John wanted to
I feel
respond
like,
as well.
yeah, I feel like I've heard, a similar comments to Jen's enough times to realize that, despite the fact that what Zayed says is right, we're kind of violating, at least for some participants, the principle of least surprise by balloting up until the 11th hour. And yeah, as Roman said, we need to discuss it because there's various consequences to changing those procedures, but I think we should at least consider it. So thank you for the suggestion.
Warren?
Yeah, I mean, I do think we can try and be better at that. I know that I'm always trying to have all my balloting done by the Monday, but I usually find myself on Wednesday night at like 11 p.m. desperately trying to get the last done. I had a look recently, there's around 300, average is around 320 pages per telechat. That's spread over 2 weeks. So, it's 100 and, I can't do the math on the stage, but 100 and something pages. It's often hard to get them done. We could do telechats every 3 weeks instead. That would be nice. But yeah, I mean, I do understand it is annoying. It is also sometimes tricky when you get documents that change like the day before the telechat to quickly go through and make sure that the changes have, addressed your comments. But yep, we can try to do better.
Scanning right, scanning left. Okay. Next in the queue is Robert.
Continuing on the conversation that you've just been having, you have a telechat for a reason. You don't have a deadline that you could just not meet. The point of the telechat is for the ISG to get together and talk about whether or not a document is ready for approval. Setting a deadline for having all of the reviews in front of the telechat will defeat part of the purpose of having the telechat and having the discussion. So as a community member, a draft author who's been in your position and understands the competing stresses for when you finish, protect that. I strongly urge that you protect that time and that opportunity to have the collaborative effect of a real-time communication at the point before you're approving documents. Trying to artificially set a goal to say, no, my review is done 24 hours before you get together to talk about it is going to be harmful. And I would suggest pushing back, as you started to do gently, but maybe even a little more aggressively, about the idea of being over, no, let me restate that as trying to address all of the concerns from the ISG by the time you get to the telechat. I think addressing anything that the ISG brings up is something that should be expected to take some time beyond the telechat. Responsiveness is great, but attempting to have everything done by the time you get to the telechat should not be a goal. It should just be a soon after.
Yeah, thanks for that perspective, having sat on both sides of this, Robert. Okay, yeah, like we said, we're gonna have to take it back to kind of talk amongst the team. Okay, Bob.
So just to follow up on that, Bob Hinden, so there's also a reason why you want to get these in, because then you can read them. You can see what all the other ADs think. You'll have the same problem the authors have if they show up just before the telechat, that you won't have time to read the other ADs' comments. So I think having some sort of deadline is actually useful even for you, not just the authors who are trying to resolve the problems, but you can see what the other ADs had to think, said about it.
Thanks for coloring that commentary. Pete.
Yeah, there we go.
I hear you.
I actually want to disagree with Robert a little because I think he misanalyzed the request. I think he is exactly right that your telechat time should be used for discussion of the documents to do the analysis. However, if you don't put in discuss comments ahead of time and get input from the authors and/or working groups, you won't have enough information conceivably to make that discussion useful, right? If you raise a discuss on a document and you say, I don't get this, if the author has the answer or the working group has the answer to your question ahead of the telechat, you will then be able to rationally discuss it during the telechat. If you don't give time for that interaction to happen before the telechat, that means you've got to roll another 2 weeks before something actually takes place that is a discussion. I'm not saying that this is going to work every time, but I think that goal of getting those comments in so that you can get responses before the telechat is really ideal. I don't know if the deadline would make sense, but I think it's a goal.
Thanks for that feedback. I mean, again, the ISG is going to have to come back to think about it. What I haven't heard anyone mention, as the community is giving us feedback on this, if we have a hard deadline at some point earlier than the actual kind of meeting date, that would probably mean that we have to move the date that we put things on the agenda. So that would close the window that the documents would need to be ready earlier before the telechat, and that also creates additional kind of dynamics. So all things we'll have to talk about. Thanks. Okay, I'm scanning left.
Can I say one thing? So
yeah, please, Dan.
So you don't have to wait 2 weeks though, right? So once you've made the discuss on the document and you've had the telechat, you clear the discusses and off you move. You don't have to come back to the telechat. Like you don't have to wait 2 weeks. You could clear the discusses on Friday after the telechat and off you would go. Right?
Okay. Again, anyone else from the SG? No. Okay, so I see the queue is drained. I'm going to wait 1 or 2 seconds because I know folks are searching their email to complete the survey, which is great. I appreciate that attention. All right, so that is it for the ISG. We will now move to the IAB. And again, everyone's looking to complete the survey because there's a little bit of time. No, I guess we should have had that up.
And if you have already done the survey, but you want to give RZERC feedback or other input to the IB appointments, please do that now.
Report that stat.
Yes.
So we just got a real-time stat. 30 people have filled the survey out since I've been prompting them. Maybe if I keep saying it, we can get that. We can get that to 60. This is like a fundraising challenge. We can get a kind of thermometer up here.
What do we get when we hit
tote bags?
Tote bags. You heard it here first, everyone.
These lovely bottles of water, reusable.
All right. Okay, so we're going to start the IB open mic session. We'll quickly introduce everyone, and let's start down on the left, my left.
Chris Wood, AB.
David Skenazy.
Colin Jennings.
Mia Kulevin.
Dhruv Thodi.
Suresh Krishnan. Wes Hardiker.
Roman Danilia.
Tommy Pauly.
Colin Perkins, Ietf Chair.
Cheng IB.
Works.
Alyssa Cooper.
Matthew Bocci.
Alvaro Retana.
All right. And I believe the queues are open. So if you have any questions, concerns, please feel free.
Appreciate that. Pete.
Thank you. Thank you for filling out the survey, everybody. All right. Give it 5, 4, 3, 2. Oh, here we go. Perfect.
Hello, is it working?
Yeah, you're good.
I was going to ask this question in Prague, but you all left the stage so fast. I wanted to understand more about how the IAB is engaging with the Internet Governance Forum and specifically, but also other organizations in the space. There's the UN Digital Compact thing coming up in September. So I'd like to understand how the technical community is, and you're the liaison to the rest of those things, is showing up in those other fora.
Great. Yeah, thank you for the question. And those are definitely things we are tracking. On the IAB, most of us come from more of the technical engineering background, but we have been certainly engaging a lot with ISOC on keeping up on what is going on in those various fora, on the developments of the GDC, et cetera. So partly we work with ISOC and the liaisons that ISOC has to the IAB. Like recently, we co-sign and co-author letters with them, et cetera. But we also have, we try to have some presence and participation through our outreach efforts, as well as just having presence at those fora in general. So I don't know if anyone else wants to speak to engagement there.
So one thing to note is that there's a lot of back channel that I don't think that is super visible, because there's a lot of conversations happening between multiple standards organizations or organizations in general that all consider themselves part of or have some implementation of the multi-stakeholder process. Full disclosure, I'm also on the ICANN board, but I don't speak for them. But the ICANN and the Ietf actually communicate a lot, as does a number of other. There's actually a public mailing list for announcements, and the Global Digital Compact is being heavily discussed. Unfortunately, that discussion by the people that can actually author it happens behind closed doors. So we have to submit comments as a mechanism for dealing with that particular issue. But it's of concern to a very large body of people that are all worried that the technical community won't have the same influence that we do, or that there will be regulations imposed upon us. And so there's many organizations that are trying to influence that in various positive ways on our side.
What's the mailing list where the discussion's happening again?
The list.
What's the name of the list?
I need to I need to look it up. It's like no. Let's see who can search the fastest.
Give us a second.
It's an ICANN Global Digital Compact list. I will also point out that a number of IAB members were.
I can provide an answer to that. It's the WSIS 20 mailing list, and it's about the WSIS process, not just the GDC. Sorry, was that heard? So it's the WSIS 20 mailing list, and it's not just about the GDC, it's about the WSIS plus 20 process more broadly. But there's great information on everything that's been happening around the GDC in there. So that's a great resource.
Yeah, and there's many global events that are happening all near the same time. NetMundial plus 10 just ended, but it's WSIS 20, and it's an ICANN mailing list that I believe everybody can subscribe to.
There were also a number of IAB members at the last IGF in Kyoto, so we're definitely engaging.
All right. Anything else on that topic? Okay. Andrew.
Hi, Andrew Camping. Just really following up on that, since Colin mentioned that there was a presence at the IGF in Kyoto, which was fantastic. Is there a plan to replicate that at Riyadh this December? Because I think it's great to see involvement with the wider multi-stakeholder community.
So with respect to outreach, our aim was to sort of rotate things. So we did an IGF, we are taking a break maybe this time, and we have identified a different community to outreach in the next year, but we'll come back. Of course, it's a very important thing, and we want to rotate our time across different bodies to do our outreach. But IGF is very important, and we'll continue to do that. And Roman is, of course, going, so
Right,
maybe
if-
not from our side.
Yeah, if we're talking about participating in Riyadh, there is a submission that we have jointly done with ISOC and ICANN, and we're waiting to hear acceptance. And if that is accepted, I will be a speaker on that panel.
All right. Thank you for the questions. Anything else? Okay. Sounds like that's it. And again, fill out your surveys or give feedback to the IB on your appointments. Have a good night, everyone.
Jay, did we get any additional surveys during the IAB? Because we
How are
may
we
need to
looking?
lock the doors if we can't get to the threshold number here.
All right, and
So we got 6, that's great.
6 more. Thank you. Keep them coming. All right, now I'll hand it off to the LLC.
If you've completed your survey, there's an IETF Donate Now button. Please go ahead and do that.
Yeah. All right, so IETF open, LLC open mic. I see we have 2 people in queue. Michael Richardson up first. Oh, one down? Oh, there we go. Okay. Go ahead, Michael.
Hi, Michael Richardson. So I had to write my points down, I'll get muddled. Usually IETF in my country, even at the other side, is the more affordable one. And for many of us, this has not been the case. I'm not saying the LLC could predict CrowdStruck or the fireworks or the fact that the Airbnb rules would change. But they've all kind of come together as a kind of, thing. So Jay, by the way, I hope you'll ask some questions in your survey for this one about, did we get our things canceled? Did we find hotels at the right thing? And what did we do? Or did we cancel travel? Did people cancel travel completely because they couldn't find hotels? Because I think that was a really big deal this time, worse than other times. The fact that the IETF hotel turns out to be the cheaper option if you could get a room is startling. And I really do think we should ask if people didn't make it here because or were delayed because of CrowdStruck. I think it's just useful for us to know that we have that dependency, there. And I was very interested, Roman, in your comments about the number of fee waivers, that you've hit a record again. I would like to know more about some of it. I've heard some other people, that made use of them that otherwise wouldn't have been able to do them. And my impression is that there's a large number of people who are not newcomers to the IETF who suddenly find themselves reorganized into groups that don't care about the IETF. And I think this is applied to quite a number of people, not necessarily new graduates in their normal newcomer list. And so actually my question really for you is, given that, historically we made money on meetings and we funded the Secretariat, and then things are no longer that way. Meetings mostly lose money. So the question becomes is, as a group, not just as the IETF LLC, but as the whole industry, can we still afford to do 3 meetings a year? And we've talked about doing online as an environmental thing, but now I'm wondering if we just need to do that because we can't afford to actually do it anymore. And that I feel almost like we're really imperiling our work, that I'm aware of work that, for instance, has sat in discusses for 3 or 4 months simply because the authors were taken off of IETF work, right? And so I really got to wonder, like, you know, maybe it would be better if we did less, did it faster, met less. And anyway, that's my question really, is what are we going to do about that, right?
Just a small question, nothing
Just a
big
small
there,
question.
right? Yeah,
I'm
it's
only
pretty
pondering
fundamental.
the whole future of the IETF, but maybe that's actually the push that we need to say, you know what, maybe we should have cheaper, less frequent, more intense meetings, right? And, you know, use the internet, right?
Yep.
I'm happy to
Go
take
ahead.
that. There are a number of things to kind of unpack here. I may not kind of satisfy, so feel free to come back to the mic and kind of re-vector me. I was trying to make a list. So you said you had some interest in the fee waivers. This was my first time approving fee waivers, so I don't have a lot of historical precedent for the nature of how the request would come in. You seem to kind of express some concern about longstanding participants that may be caught short, and you know, what might be the interplay of that around kind of fee waivers.
Well, so I know of, for instance, I know of one long-standing participant who, you know, whose company wouldn't pay him to be here this week. It wouldn't pay his fee, but, you know, as it turns out, he lives here, kind of, right? And I know he got a fee waiver, and that was really important. And the working group is unstuck, right, for going forward, and that's wonderful, because we were stuck before. Sure. So I'm getting the impression that that has been repeated a number of times across things. Maybe they didn't ask for fee waivers. Maybe they figured it out. Maybe they're participating remotely instead. And so my impression is that even though our numbers are way up, my impression is that there's a lot of negative pressure towards doing IETF work that I feel like it's really appeared in the last 6 months. And that it's not like the IETF's not relevant anymore, but like no one can afford to do it anymore.
Yeah, so again, I'm going to answer the little question and then try to talk about the bigger question. In having no kind of particular kind of guidance on what to do with the fee waivers, I prioritize people that had previously participated in the IETF. A non-trivial percentage of those that asked, and again, the sample we're talking about 25, were folks that were interested in being in the IETF but previously had not participated. So those that perhaps were in between jobs, lacked kind of corporate support, were at the top of my list. And I may not have been able to get everyone because of my budget, but that was the overwhelming majority in how I applied that budget. And most of those that were declined were in the category of they aspired to participate more in the IETF and they were looking.
I think you did the right prioritization.
So that is my, thank you. I mean, that is my intent to continue doing that. To the question of there's a downward pressure kind of spiral, we would need to explore that a little more. As you saw me kind of in the open, like the numbers, the participation numbers don't suggest that there is this downward kind of spiral. We're within the zone of prior kind of participation. As to what do we do about this idea that discusses are not being resolved because funding that didn't occur seems completely untied to meeting participation. We have all sorts of very successful authors that don't even show up at meetings but are putting drafts kind of through. So I think there's more dynamics than actual, the meeting itself that you're trying to kind of surface, and we should potentially talk more.
Okay.
Or you can vector me in.
Well, I'm sort of trying to say that it's not just I can't afford to get to the meeting. It's that it appears to be I'm only going to be able to spend time remotely on the meeting or on my drafts on my vacation because my boss doesn't want me to do them. Not applying to me actually, but because boss says something else is higher priority. And so the fact that it's hard to get to the meeting, that's just a symptom of the lack. Meanwhile, we don't have enough working group chairs. We don't have enough non-com volunteers. We can't fund ADs. Thank you for putting that slide up with the people who were funding ADs, but we still don't know how to, we still have that problem 20 years since my first non-com that we can't pick anybody we want. We got to pick somebody who has funding to be essentially a full-time AD. And that's still a problem 20 years later. And we don't have an answer. And I don't think you're going to come
Yeah,
up
I
with
think,
one, but it's
Well,
kind of
hold on.
stressful.
I mean, most ADs have not said that they are full-time. By the numbers.
It's a 50% commitment of an 80-hour week. That was the non-com quote from 2003.
Well, that's
right.
Well, 2003 seems like an awfully long time ago.
What I'm trying to say is that,
was not active then.
what I'm trying to say is that it has not changed that much in that time. So that's the good news, is it hasn't changed. It hasn't gotten worse, but it also hasn't gotten better.
We'll take it as
We should
noted. I
take
think we see the bigger point you're making. And in terms of the remote or sort of, online only meetings and, changing the frequency, I think to a large extent, we are implementers of what the ISG wants to do in terms of that structure. That doesn't mean that we can't help facilitate that conversation. So I think we can carry that forward, and probably also some items to note in the IASA 2, to sort of open up some fundamental questions about, that structure, even though we might not be able, from an LLC standpoint, be able to make that decision.
I think that it would be useful if we had a conscious decision that the funding model for ADs is, we've thought about it and we're not going to change it. And that's okay, but I think that should be part of the IASA review. Are we getting this right?
Yeah.
Do we need to be semi-professional standards? No one really here wants to do that, but are there other things we can do that would make workload lighter or different, or move things around? Or, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of this is also for the ISG, because you're talking
Yes,
about
it is
workload
totally.
process, so this is probably not
and
LLC feedback.
I thought hard as to when to click
Yeah.
my button, right? But yeah.
Quick one, Jay?
Can you, since you've written your notes, can you send me the questions you think I should be asking in the survey?
I didn't write them in my notes, but I'll send them to you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And on the funding part, I can only speak to the affordability of things for us as the LLC. The Ietf is a long-term organisation. It's not a short-term profit-driven organisation, and that's evidenced entirely by its history. So that means taking the rough with the smooth some years without overreacting. So we're not going to see great layoffs and things, if we're going to end up trying to maintain a particular profit ratio or anything like that. That does mean that things have to be put in place to help ease the pain, though. And it does mean that you'll see certain shifts in things. So I imagine you'll see a shift from corporate-funded people to slightly more government-funded people, because government can weather these downturns better sometimes than corporates can and things. It's a natural change, and I think that there are things that we can do to make that better. But my view is, don't panic. It will change within a couple of years, and we'll be back to a different time.
All right, thanks. Mike Bishop.
Cool. Thank you.
Thanks.
So, Mike Bishop, Akamai. I will echo a couple of the comments about travel disruption. I was one of a couple people that I know of that were planning to be on site and are now remote because we couldn't get there before meetings started. And I decided the meetings were more important than being on the airplane. I am curious if the numbers that were shared at the start are the number of people who actually showed up versus the number of people who registered, and how many people have flipped. And yes, I also agree with Michael before me that we should ask in the survey, did you originally plan to be remote, or were you remote for some other reason that happened, whether it was visa, travel, lodging? Like, why weren't you in person if you wanted to be?
Yeah, so I think we'll take that as noted. Great feedback about the kind of questions we should ask in the follow-up, and try to dig into a little bit more about why was it, a CrowdStrike issue? Was it a, last-minute travel, budget cut, et cetera? And as well, we won't know some of the final numbers until really Friday, because sometimes people registered for the week might not come until later in the week. So some of that, won't be known until, Friday comes around. Thank you. All right, next up, Andrew.
Hi, Andrew Campling. I was appalled in Brisbane, well, by two things, the coffee, but that's by the by the gender sort of figures, which apologies if I'm misremembering it, but I think we had a low point of 7.6% female participation in Brisbane. Again, apologies if I miss it. I don't think we've had the numbers for here yet. So, but it doesn't feel like we've actually grasped this as something that we actually want to do something about. I mean, various people have acknowledged that it's a problem, but
No,
I don't think there's anything in plan to do anything. And 7.6% is appalling. It's well below the industry standard. I think RIPE was about 20 something percent. So, which is not great, but it's a hell of a lot better than 7.6. So it would be fantastic to see if, let's take this seriously, let's measure it, let's do something about it rather than just.
Well, we
acknowledge
absolutely
it's a
take it
problem.
seriously. We've got, a whole diversity program under which, a bunch of initiatives, including the sisters, are located. We've got funders now for a lot of that stuff where we didn't really before. But it's a tough problem to solve. There's no doubt about that. And part of it goes to the initial funnel of people that begin participating and, how welcome they feel, do they return? So there's been a lot of survey stuff around new participants and, their experiences and, whether they return and so on. We are open to any very specific suggestions about how to do better in this area. So please feel free to offer them. But we're going to continue to focus on it. We agree. Thank you. Next up is Bron.
Thanks for the coffee comment, by the way. I was actually going to speak about that. We have things like free coffee, lots and lots of snacks all the way through the meeting. When we're talking about the cost of things, I think that's probably worth looking at as well, is how much are we making this a really nice place to be, but also is that our focus, or is our focus the work? My other question was about this meeting, particularly the plenary session. Looking around the room, I think we have maybe a quarter of the people who are on site at IETF come to the plenary session. I know a lot of people who say, I'm not going to bother going to the plenary session. It could be an email. It's probably worth looking at whether this is a valuable session with the format that it is now and how much of people's time you're getting value out of. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. All right, Dean.
So there is a downward impression of many corporates that they are saying, reduce your ITF, what's the value for us? Because it's not anymore with the people who are thinking about technology, it's more about the people who are counting the money. And then it's sometimes very hard to persuade the people who are counting the money, you need some extra budget, because long-term, that will be a good investment, but many people are doing the short-term decisions. One of the things that I would be interested from the survey, you're saying, oh, this many people are participating. It would be interesting to know how many people participate less than 5 times, how many participants are active draft authors over that period of time, because just looking at the number, it can be quite a bit. Many people come to the ITF to see if they could get engaged, and you might have a lot of those people who, it's bad to call them ITF tourists, but they come in, hey, it's nearby, I would like to learn more about it and see if I will get involved or not. And this could give us some number, because I'm participating for the past 25 years, and there is a small group of people that are the same faces over the 25 years. And they're changing the working groups and changing the areas, but it's a pretty core group. And there has been quite a number of people that were participating for a while, and then they left because they said, I'm not interested in the area anymore that ITF works. What I was working on was finished, changed my career, moved on. But all in all, if I would put all that together, I could not get to the number of like 800 participants.
Right.
So some classification of those number of participants over like the past 5 years, because the data is there, would be good to have, and then make some, resolution from there.
Fair enough, thanks. And I'm sure, one of the inputs there is new working groups and new areas and so on. So important for some of the, groups like ISG. Clea?
I wanted to say that I'm slightly confused about why you can't give more of the, support the people who are requesting fee waivers, having fee waivers. I don't understand the limit. There seems to be lots of room here and lots of food outside. So that's and I want to say that I got a fee waiver for my second meeting. It was local in San Francisco, so I could afford to pay the fee because I didn't have to get on an airplane. I really wanted to continue participating, and I could figure out how to get to Prague and pay for a super cheap hotel. And I said the one variable cost in sort of making it affordable was asking for a fee waiver, and I almost got rejected because at the time it was said to me that they only gave fee waivers to very local people. So anyways, I think I'm just curious about that. You don't have to answer it. I'm just naming it as like, I don't get it. I lead an event where we give fee waivers basically to anybody who asks, especially if they're active participants and new people, and we never have a problem. So it's just a question.
Okay.
And I think if you want to grow this community so that it has longevity, like I look around and I'm like, I'm a young person here and I'm not that young, right? So there's some, how do we think about growing younger participation too? It's not just about gender and it's not just about the rest of the world. It's also like inviting younger folks to be here so this organization sustains itself.
Okay, thank you. Mark?
Yeah, I just was sitting listening and contemplating. I sit on a board of another technical community that has a active and opinionated group of people. And I just wanted to say thank you. You're doing a pretty good job. So thanks.
Thanks. All right, looks like we have drained the queue. Oh, is there some? Oh, sorry, I didn't even see a non-queue participant.
Tobias Siewich, Max Planck Institute for Informatics, speaking for myself. And when I tried to click on the join on-site tool button, it was already 1931 and it wasn't there anymore. That's why I didn't queue. I wanted to re-emphasize the point that we did have a discussion about the cost of attending IETF, followed by a statement that everything is being done to increase diversity within the community. And I'd like to point out that those 2 points, as already said by our colleague over there, are very much related. Because especially if you say things like we are well below industry standard, if you do have additional costs associated in participating in the IETF, which might only be arguing with your boss that it's actually worthwhile to go there, well, you might actually prioritize that when you already are disadvantaged in your job role. So this connection, I think, needs to be further explored also in the context of increasing diversity within the community.
Okay, thank you. All right, don't see anything else. Thank you very much, everybody. The session is over. Yay.
And remember, you can still give later, even if you filled out the survey. Thank you.
That was my line. All right, thank you, everyone, and have a good rest of your evening. And that's the end of our plenary session. No, thank you, Ori.